Every author faces unique challenges, both physical and mental, when putting finger to key. In today's discussion, we take a look at the roads traveled by neurodiverse writers and their tools for navigating the twists and turns they encounter along the way. We will also ask about how they think it inspires the stories they tell. On this week's Indie Connection, C.L. Cannon brings us books that you may like if you're a fan of The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Then we take 60 seconds to tell you what is coming up in our Go Indie Minute. Finally, we dive into a brand new game for this week's epilogue. So everyone gather around the communal fire and bring your own story to tell. It's time for another fantastic episode of This Week in Indies with your host, SM Hillman. Good day, everyone. Welcome to another fantastic episode of This Week in Indies. I'm your host, SM Hillman. It's a really great panel today, and I think we're going to have a great episode. We're introducing a new game in Epilogue, which I'll tell you about once we get there. But before we get into anything, I want to go ahead and have our panel introduce themselves, starting from the top. Please, AJ Milliken, introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, I'm AJ. Sorry about my voice right now. Had a little bit of an upper respiratory infection this past week, but I write a lot of romance, different genres, subgenres rather of romance, and I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. MM?
Hi, I'm M. I write basically romantasy or fantasy romance, whatever way you want to look at it.
Awesome. Thank you for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Lily, long time no see.
Yeah, I know. It's been so long, right? And for everyone who's familiar with Go Indie now, you know me. But I'm Lily Lucchesi, USA Today bestselling author and owner of Partners in Crime Book Services. I write paranormal and urban fantasy under this name, and I also write romance under Samantha Calcott and dark and taboo romance as S.L. Sinclair.
Great, thank you. Good to see you again. And David, same with you. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again as well. Yeah, it's been a while. I'm David Green. I live in Galway in Ireland. I'm delighted to be here because it means we have power for the first time in almost a week. Actually, over a week since the storms. So yeah, happy to come and talk about neurodiversity.
Awesome, excellent, thank you. Okay. Also, we're obviously having a little bit of an issue with our matching up our faces to backgrounds, but that's okay. AJ, let's go ahead and start with you. We know that some of these stereotypes can be frustrating with neurodiversity. Are there any in particular that you found that just have created issues for you, or ones that you particularly just don't like people bringing up, talking about?
The thing that gets me is, I think part of my neurodivergence is I have to write in order. So I start with chapter 1, page 1, and write to the end. Occasionally I'll go, excuse me. Pardon that. Occasionally I'll go backwards and fill in gaps, but I have to write it in order. And sometimes people don't understand that about me. And so if I get stuck, they're like, well, just skip it and write a scene further ahead. I'm like, what are you talking about? You can't do that. You've got to write in order. And they're like, well, no, you just write another scene somewhere else and then slap it back in there later. And my particular brand of neurodivergence does not jive with that. And a lot of times other writers who maybe are more neurotypical don't understand that. They're like, well, why can't you write out of order? Just do it. And I'm like, but no, I can't. And I'm sure, like, I know M, she has a different type of neurodivergence when it comes to writing, and she writes in a different order than I do, but it works for her. And I think that's what people understand, is that our brains are keyed in differently, and we can't always just do the way a neurotypical may do it. Um, and that's a little frustrating sometimes because they're trying to give you advice, and it's like, well, you don't understand. It doesn't work with the way my brain is wired.
Right. Yeah. Well-meaning advice, but it still shows a lack of understanding. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Em, what about you?
Something I've kind of discovered recently, because I'm working on my third book, and it kind of, following up behind what Amy said about people having a different process. There's a lot of things I've been told. You do this way and this that way, and you do your pre-orders, and you make sure you have your date set. And I don't know if it's because I took some of that advice too literally, and I set this release date. And every release date I've set, I've had to push out. So I think I might have to change the way I do things and not do release dates until I'm at a certain point. So it's been a little frustrating there, trying to figure out how I work in regards to the way everyone else does things, the way that, because when you're first getting started, you want to do what the people have come before you kind of do, because they say, oh, this works, but it doesn't for me. And you have to kind of figure it out as you go along, how you're going to fit in to I don't want to say structure, because it's not really a structure when you're doing indie stuff. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, and you kind of have to figure it out as you go along.
Have you run into folks who with similar challenges, or you do the things the way you do, that you can kind of bounce ideas off? Or
I think Amy is one of the few people I know for sure are neurodivergent, because that's another thing, is not everyone wants to disclose whether or not they are. So I tend to be the first one to say, oh, hey, this is my autism, my ADHD, this is how it's affecting me. And that kind of encourages people to kind of come out and say that, bring up their struggles. But I think Amy is really the only one that I talk to on such a regular basis that we're, kind of figuring things out.
Good. Thank you. Lily?
There are a couple things that stand out as something that, misinformation wise, and it doesn't, well, one of them does tie into writing. I'll be as fast as possible so I don't take up time, but one of them would be being assigned female at birth, presenting as female. When you are younger, very often you are not diagnosed unless you are exhibiting quote unquote boys' autism, because how autism especially manifests in girls, and sometimes even ADHD, it is quiet, cries a lot, sensitive, hyper empathy instead of lack of empathy. So they don't want to diagnose you as long as you get good grades. So I went until I was 26 years old undiagnosed. So I think that's one of the things that bothers me the most overall in regards to neurodivergency, is how gender makes people treat you different and diagnose you different, or not want to see you as quote unquote sick. And I think one of the things that bothers me in the writing world in particular is I hyperfocus. Unfortunately, now my ADHD has gotten a bit out of control where I'm not as focused on my own things, but I hyperfocus, and I could write 100,000 words in a month. I've written 80,000 words in 2 weeks before. And I used to get accused, back when that was the thing, of using ghostwriters and questioned, how could you do all of this? And unfortunately, I see that coming around again with, AI novels and people who write fast. Oh, well, you have to be using. No, we're not. Please don't see people who are different from you and automatically assume that we're cheating. And I think that's just, that's something that bothers me a lot, because most of the people I know who have such a frequent output, who work so hard, who have the hyper focus, we are all neurodivergent. And neurotypical people look at us and see something that is wrong because they can't do it. They think it's impossible.
Right, and so they ascribe all sorts of or all sorts of manner of things negative to it when really it's writing 80,000 words in a month, which has its challenges, but that can also be a very good thing, right?
Yes.
It can be a positive thing. Yeah.
Yes, it is. But, other people, again, if they can't do it, they just automatically think, well, no one can do it. And it's like, no, our brains work differently. And it's very hard to make people understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. David?
Yeah, it's I share a lot of the same things that everyone has said first, but from like a kind of a writing point of view and getting it out there and writing about kind of neurodiverse characters, particularly autistic characters, which is what I like to do. My indie stuff, like the series that I have and everything, have a lot of autistic characters in them. And I have one that's on submission with my agent, which is about an autistic person. It's about their life experience. And what you get from that is a lot of, well, this doesn't seem autistic to me, because they don't live up to certain stereotypes that a lot of neurotypical people have been trained to accept as what autistic is, from various characters that are in TV shows, movies, and books. A lot of the time, autistic characters are seen as alien-esque or robotic, lacking in empathy, lacking in humor, but also they're made out to be the butt of the joke a lot of the time as well. And when you try to show that this is not what autism actually is, and that many autistic people are very, very different to each other. We all have our own strengths and challenges, like other people do as well. And in fact, with and Lily was touching on it before about the empathy side of it, there, a lot of autistic people that I know, that it's not that we don't have empathy, it's that we feel too much empathy and not sure what to do with how we feel about things sometimes, because from an early age we're told not to show our emotions, because one of the key things with autistic people is that at early ages we struggle to regulate emotion, and if you're not diagnosed early enough, or even if you are, you're told like you're acting in the wrong way, to not overreact, not to this. So you end up just suppressing it, and you have this well of it. So when you try to explore these kind of things and try and paint these pictures, these characters that and it's different to the likes of Sheldon Cooper or Rain Man, or even in some people like where you get like people like, oh, Spock is autistic, or Mr. Data from Next Generation is autistic, isn't he? It's like, no, he's a robot. He's not autistic. He is a robot. Right? When you try to do things that are not like this, you do run up to in some people that are like, oh, well, yeah, this doesn't seem like autism to me. And it's like, well, I suppose you must be the expert in it then, person that's only ever seen autistic people on TV.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think sometimes people are trying to be well-meaning, but they really don't come off that way, do they? Right. And there's also, like you mentioned, just a lot of negative stereotypes with regard to it.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. Is like, the only way to kind of defeat stereotypes is to give neurodivergent people a voice and a platform to actually kind of show this is what it looks like in lots of different kinds of ways. But again, I kind of get the feeling, I think there, particularly autism, it kind of gives neurotypical people the ick sometimes, because they're not quite sure how to deal with it. So it's a lot safer for people to kind of digest when it's like autistic people written by not autistic people, and they are like secondary and tertiary characters, or like comic relief and stuff like that. I'm not sure that a lot of people quite know how to respond when it's like a more layered approach.
And I think too, if we look back at characters, not necessarily authors, but probably authors too. I mean, but characters in the past, I think Sherlock Holmes could maybe, there are characters that have been written in the past which weren't specifically autistic or were neurodivergent, but may have been or could have been characterized that way. So neurodiverse characters have been with us for a long time. So kind of dovetailing into that, with all the negative, and Lily touched on a little bit, but has your neurodiversity given you an advantage when it comes to writing? David, if you could start with that, or something that it's given you that you really consider a good thing.
Yeah, so I think, I think the rest of the panelists might agree with this. What we kind of have to do to kind of survive is mask, and by what I mean by masking is try to fit in ways, in many different ways, and in ways that are quite bizarre to us, I think, sometimes. But to mask and to fit in is that you become quite adept at people watching and trying to figure out exactly why it is people are doing things, and why people talk about the weather, for example, or why people just why certain neurotypical people just lie to each other all the time. It's like, just be honest with each other. It's fine. It's okay to tell people how you feel. But there's all this kind of thing where it's all like, these like myriad different social norms that we try to try and fit in with and understand. So where that helps with the writing is that we've spent so much of our lives trying to understand how people work and how it is that we're not fitting in with them, and it's like, what are we doing wrong? I'm sure I'm doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, but it doesn't seem to work for me. So when you have that, it's really easy then to kind of bring that and write characters, because you just spend time working on characters, looking at how people work, looking at how people interact. And then when we are trying to write people from our own experience, it obviously comes very naturally to us because we've lived it. But then when we're trying to write people that aren't like us, I think, we spent so much time studying them in our real lives, there is a little bit easier for us to kind of capture neurotypical behaviors, I suppose, compared to how neurotypicals would try to capture neurodiverse behaviors.
All right, gotcha. Lily?
Again, a strength that I've been able to find with that is the hyperfocus, that I'm able to get so many words on the page. I'm able to immerse myself in these worlds. And David's correct. I mask quite a bit. I'm a little fidgety today, but my face, this is all a mask. I don't typically have facial expressions unless I feel something very strongly. And even then, it's usually only a negative emotion. So, when David talks about masking, I do have to study other people. What do their faces look like? What looks normal? Otherwise, I'd be sitting here just staring straight away, talking monotone. My hands probably wouldn't even be moving. It's very difficult, and people understand how much energy we expend doing this. But when we do it, we do get to make our characters much more realistic and fleshed out, because we have to understand many different types of people. The neurotypical experience that I have found is people stay in their own bubbles. They don't take time to go out and look at other people, other perspectives. Why are they like this? Again, why do they talk about the weather? Why do they think that it's okay to not show any of their emotions? Why do they think it's a bad thing to feel? Why is it a bad thing to be emotional, effeminate? So many different things. And when we study that, we get to take in so many different personalities. And even if I don't understand them, typically I don't understand them, I'm still able to write with them. Danny, who is one of my characters in the Paranormal Detective series, he's one of the ones that I don't understand. I don't understand him at all. But I'm able to write him in a way that readers have said, oh, he's so realistic. Your POV with him, I'm like, that's great. I think that he's a horrible character. I don't get his personality whatsoever. But I'm able to write it much easier due to the masking and due to having to watch what other people are like. And I think if you read books from neurodivergent authors, you do often notice a different type of depth, whether it's a depth of the POV character or the understanding of the secondary characters. It's very interesting, And it's not something that I thought about until actually long after I was diagnosed. And also, it does affect our main characters. But I have a funny feeling a question about that is coming, so I'll stop here.
Maybe that could be foreshadowing. M?
Yeah, a lot like they said, it gives you all the people watching and trying to figure out how to fit in. Definitely gives you a different way of thinking about writing characters. I have ADHD too. So my process, I don't maybe think that hard on it. It's more like it's all processing in the back, and I'm almost channeling the characters in a way. Like there's one character, Labicno, in my books, who's like the whole time I was writing the first book, he was just in the back of my head, just almost talking. So we probably all process it a little differently too. And again, with the hyper focus is also really helpful when you're working on things like continuity. Because I sat down just like I didn't want to do the laundry. So I sat down and wrote a book. And then it was sort of like, well, I've got more story. And so I wrote another one. And, I basically sat down and drafted 4 books. So the continuity it's kind of nice. I don't have to worry too much about, big plot holes. It's I don't know. It just gives you a different process too. But yeah, my characters definitely, the people who read my books really do enjoy my characters. I think it also resounds more, I think, with neurodivergent readers because they see a little more of themselves in some of the characters. And I've also, with neurodivergence, there's also a lot of crossover with other disorders like depression, anxiety, PTSD, CPTSD. So you see, I reflect some of that in some of the other characters too. So there's a good mix of things that make a character more realistic in terms of, not just being a surface kind of character where, it's just this person is this archetype, but no, they've got flaws and, different backstories and stuff. I think it can help give you a lot more depth.
Awesome. Thank you. AJ?
Yeah, definitely the masking and watching neurotypicals to find out how you're supposed to mask or supposed to mask. I think that definitely helps in writing characters. I think a lot of neurodivergent authors probably write better, more fleshed out characters because they are people are characters to us. Like the whole world is full of characters because we're trying to figure out what makes them tick and what makes them operate and why they work the way they do. Excuse me. And I think that really it gives us a different mindset that a neurotypical might not have. A neurotypical might not be able to say, well, this person is doing X, Y, and Z because of this. Well, because that's the way it's supposed to be. And so when you're someone who has to mask and has to figure out how this is supposed to be, just to be able to operate in a normal world, it really makes it easier, I think, to write characters who are doing what's quote unquote expected of the characterization um, because you've learned to watch other people and to kind of mimic those normative states that are and yeah, masking is so weird because like I have the RBF like big time. I always joke with Lily after we do one of these shows because she always screenshots me looking like the most bored, uninterested person in the world, and it's just because my facial expression. I'm watching the show and interacting in the show, and I'm not necessarily masking like I'm supposed to be doing. And so, like, you got me going, or, and it's like, it's not her fault. She's just screenshotting a moment in time in the show, but my face is not interacting the way a neurotypical face might interact in this show. And so it's a little hilarious.
It's okay. You can say you're bored when I'm hosting. It's all right. I won't be offended. But no, I absolutely I can understand that. Let's take a look at some of our comments. AF is here. Hi, AF. And Miss Alicia Full, I think, did I get it right? I might have got screwed it up this time. Hello. Books by Tiffany. Hello, everybody. David, breaking the fourth wall. Excellent. Thank you. Sandra, hello. Sandra. Jenna, all right. And Miss Alicia Full, I promise I will get it right as I go. So yeah, thank you guys so much for commenting. I appreciate it. So let's just skip ahead a question or two. That is to say, I'm going to move my questions around based on your answers. So interacting with fans. Just quickly before we get to the indie connection, and I'll just throw this out to anybody. Your interactions with fans who are also neurodiverse. What's the feedback you get from your fans?
I have so much trouble interacting because I don't understand social interactions. So, like they always say, interact with the posts when people are commenting, interact with your readers, interact. I'm like, what do I do? So it's so weird for me because I feel like I'm not doing the right thing when I'm trying to interact with readers on posts on Facebook or Instagram. And so it's very stressful for me to interact with readers, not because I'm afraid of the readers, not because I don't like the readers, but because I don't know. I feel like I don't know the right way to interact, and so I feel like it's coming across as very unnatural, the interactions that I do have, because I don't know what I'm supposed to be saying or doing, and so it's very, very stressful for me, that part of it, the interaction. I apologize to all my readers right now because I don't know if I'm doing this right or not. I'm just winging it. I appreciate everybody who reads my books, and I appreciate your comments and posts and stuff. I just don't know how to interact with them the way that an NT is probably supposed to.
Got it. Thank you. Anybody else?
For me, what I love are GIFs and emojis, because if someone has complimented me, I especially don't know how to take that. Most of my interactions are online. In-person ones, I did my very first book signing last year, and I was not great. I was not great. I sold books, and people did like me, but it was awkward. It was very awkward. But I think one of the things that I'm able to do is, again, even masking digitally. GIFs and emojis show my emotions better than my words do, because my words always sound very flat, even when I'm typing. So again, emoji, if I'm excited for someone, instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, that's so great," it's, a GIF of someone cheering. But when readers write me something a bit more in depth, I had a couple people, Paige from Daunting Darkness is down there in the picture. But my first autistic character was before I knew I was autistic, and that was Harley in the Coven series. And I had a couple people write me about her. I got bad reviews about her too. The funniest one, no one speaks like this in real life. And the way she speaks is based on how I behaved at 16. So I'm like, well, I have news for you guys. But I did have some people message me, saying Harley behaved like they did. She reminded them of themselves. And that's one of the things that I always feel I can reply to very easily, because it's like, that's why I write. That's why I write the characters that I do. So, someone compliments me, "Hey, great book." I'm a mess and I have no idea what to say. Someone says something a bit more long form, then I can get involved and reply like quote unquote a neurotypical would. But yeah, it really depends, because like Amy said, the social interaction thing, I've never been good at it. But one of the great things about working with fans, my family's works in the music industry. So one of the things I can do is I can mask and I can watch all of my friends and all of the people I used to work with. Okay, how do you guys interact with the fans? And then it's like, okay, I can do this. I can do what you do. I'm just going to copy you.
Gotcha. Em or David, any thoughts?
Yeah. For me, being able to interact with fans online is so much easier because I can take my time and write things out, go back and edit if I need to before I go and post, because speaking is not my strong suit. Like doing this right now is very hard. I tend to ramble and stutter and all that when I'm talking to people without scripts, because that is something else that a lot of autistic people need as a script. You know, top things they can say about topics they're familiar with. And you know, I worked in retail, was my first job, and that's when I first discovered, like, oh, you know, I can talk about these sunglasses and I'm interacting with these people like normal people. And this was back before I even knew that I was autistic or ADHD. So, you know, between already having a topic that I'm an expert on, because, you know, I wrote the books, and then being able to take my time in responding to people, even if it's a minute or two time difference, just long enough for me to type out what I'm writing, edit it a little bit, make sure that it's going to come across the way I want it to, helps a lot. So I'm actually pretty comfortable with the online interaction. It's you know, doing the signings and stuff where I'm kind of like, it's really awkward and weird, but you know, because I took my mask off a couple years back. Like I stopped masking, and when you do that, it's also very hard to put it back on. So you know, it's doing the signings and stuff has been pretty hard, but I'm managing. I think the more I do them, the better I'll get, because I'll develop a script to go along with it and to interact with people, and you know, it'll get there.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you. David, any thoughts on that, on interacting with your fans?
Yeah, a lot of the same things that people say. But one of the good things as well is that there seems to be quite a lot of neurodivergent people in the reading world. Like, surprise, surprise, neurodivergent people like reading, and it's and they get very, very passionate about it. And what's good about that is that we tend to kind of flock towards one another. So I do quite a lot of conventions and stuff in the UK, and it always ends up that in the social settings, all of the kind of autistic and ADHD people are all just kind of sat with each other, and it's that all the people that kind of think that they might be, and then everyone who is like, you know, who has had diagnosis or whatever are like, yes, you are clearly autistic, like, because we can just talk to you all day and you can talk to us, it's all good. So that's always nice. And in terms of like talking to just like, you know, general kind of fans and stuff, yeah, I'm very kind of upfront about my autism. My son is autistic as well, and I'm very, very lucky that my kind of autism means that I am a strong communicator in certain ways. I might not have like the complete kind of social stuff nailed down, but I can talk. You know, I can talk clearly. I can get my point across. I can engage with people. So I'm very kind of upfront about you know, who I am and what I am and what my challenges can be. So when people kind of know that I'm on a panel or they know that I'm at a sign or something, they would tend, I think if they've read any of my stuff, they would know that I am autistic, and they're always very, very kind. Like, they always give me a lot of time and space if I ever need to kind of just go, you know, duck out or something like that. But a lot of people are just very, very curious about it as well, because like I said at the top part of it, you know, you have these stereotypes and everything, and there is that, and as you said, Sean, there is that thing where people they're not coming from it from like a mean way. A lot of the time it is just a surprise, because people like us are against the stereotypes of what they've been led to believe. So there's a lot of curiosity about it, and and sometimes there is like a few. I remember one person asking me, and it was actually on an interview on a YouTube channel, and their first question was, "What's it like to write a book as an autistic person?" And I was like, "I've never tried it any other way, so I don't know." And it was like, and I tried to make a joke out of it, because obviously I think they kind of realized straight away that it's like asking a black person, what's it like to write a book as a black person? It's like, well, that's just who I am. Like, I can't change any of that. But it was that thing where I knew what it was they're trying to get to. It's just that kind of language around autism is still developing. Like, the first person that was ever diagnosed with autism only died a few years ago, right? It's something even within the community, like, we're all kind of saying, oh, you know what, we're comfortable with, what do we like? And it's still always evolving, it's always changing. So I like that people that read my work, they're very kind of open to that, and they're very kind of, they want to learn about it. And I'm happy to kind of share my experiences with it.
That's excellent. Yeah, when I'm watching online, when someone asked a question, well, you don't seem like you're, your book doesn't seem like you're autistic or something like that. It frustrates me as a more or less neurotypical person, but I imagine it frustrate everybody else. I think that, but I don't necessarily think it's mean spirited. They're trying to be, they're trying to be positive in their own awkward, insufficient way. So,
yeah.
All right, so let's take a quick break with this week's Indie Connection. If you're a fan of The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, and if you're not, you should read it, and you will be.
Hey guys, C.O. Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. Today I'd like to tell you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. The first book I have for you is called Exiled No More by T.L. Price. A powerful magic, a world in need of a savior, a secret love. The youngest ever exiled, they believed it was a death sentence, but they were wrong. Nari Evans survived brutal conditions, living under the demigod's rule in prison. Ancient laws allowed her to return to civilization to battle for a seat on the Guardian Council that exiled her. Her family will stop at nothing to see her dead. But Nari has more than revenge pushing her to fight the strongest genetically engineered humans and demigods in a world where the environment is just as dangerous as her opponents. She has discovered her magical elemental powers and found others of her kind. But like any 20-year-old with too much power, mischief is addictive, and dangerous lovers are drawn to her. Evil is spreading, and a balance must be restored. Which side will she choose? The second book I have for you is called They Left Magic in Their Wake by Marilyn Peake. At the end of the world, there will be magic. Earth has been decimated by climate change. Humanity has fractured into isolated tribes. A child born in the southwestern desert of the United States appears to have magical powers, a strict taboo in his part of the world. In 4 other locations, people discover magical items. No one knows how they work or where they're from. Although these strange objects capture the imagination, using them is risky and dangerous. The third book I have for you is called Ghosts and Monsters by Gareth J. Southwell. In a flooded city, the Arcology provides a high-tech haven, for those who can afford it. Here, safe in her pampered confinement, Eva longs for escape. But each day she is made to play the game, a curious virtual environment that seems more designed to monitor and test than to entertain. For those outside, life is a struggle for survival, battling climate change and society on the brink of collapse, where unregulated technology runs amok, spawning genetic monsters, robotic nightmares, and digital ghosts. Here, Squirrel is a memory thief, eking out a fraught existence in service to the criminal gangs that trade in illicit gene hacks, black market augments, and her specialty, stolen secrets. But Squirrel has strange skills she doesn't know she possesses, and when they uncover a secret that some very bad people would do anything to keep hidden, her only chance at escape leads to the Arcology itself, to Eva, and the answers no one wants them to learn. And the last book I have for you is called Errant by Montrez. 16-year-old Savannah Scarlett struggles to reclaim her life after the devastating loss of her father. But finding a place to belong isn't easy for someone who's used to living life, and she thinks things can't get any worse. This is an impossible phenomenon that triggers the emergence of a wild and powerful gift. She must learn to accept and control her newfound ability, or die trying. That is, if a deadly organization of vicious hunters doesn't kill her first. Running for her life, Savannah soon finds refuge with the Errants, a ragtag group of powerful misfits who share her power and all the danger that comes with it. A supernatural war has long been brewing. Savannah is no chosen one or savior, but she may be the catalyst needed for the Errants to have a fighting chance at survival against an immortal enemy. Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on the Indie Connection. Bye!
Awesome. Another excellent Indie Connection. Thank you, CL. All right. So let's see here. So we always try to bring this around to the new writers, right? Folks who are writers, who want to be writers, who are just getting into it, or, relatively new in the process or long in the process, they're still struggling. David, just go ahead and start with you. Advice you'd give to a new writer who's working with their neurodiversity to try and make a career of
it? It's difficult because it depends on what it is you want to kind of write about. And obviously, I mean, if you are writing about the writing in general, especially when you take it as a business or you want to do it as a career, it's filled with rejection. Right. And, I think all kind of underrepresented people struggle with rejection because we face it quite a lot. Bringing it into neurodiversity in particular, like, we're probably, all of us on this panel can probably share this common experience of being told that we're too weird, we're too different, we're not good enough, etc., throughout most of our lives. So if you're going to be writing about neurodiverse people as well, and bringing that into a career in writing, like, you are putting yourself and your work out there, and depending on what kind of direction you want to go with it, the actual work itself, when it's gone into readers' hands, you're opening yourself up to rejection. When you're putting yourself onto sales to try to get people to buy them at signings, if you're doing like a book, you've got a table at a convention and people are walking past the table, and you see other people that are very kind of natural at getting people to come to the table and stuff like that. And then if you kind of want to go like the agent route and then go for the traditional route as well, which is pretty brutal, it's all just different stages of that. And it's I think the neurotypical way of saying it is that, like, you have to toughen up, but, like, I think that's a very kind of reductive and harmful thing to kind of say. And I think it's obviously with us in particular, it's something that it's so ingrained into our experience. It's like, you are going to be putting yourself into that. So it is that way of, like, how do you deal with that? And, like, I had an experience this year where I'm a hybrid author. I guess I have some self-published stuff. I have some stuff with indie publishers, and I have something that's on submission through my agent. And that just brought me to a complete standstill last year, like the whole process of something going out on submission and waiting for things, and just being stuck in this waiting mode where it's like, what do I do now? And I don't want to work on the next thing just in case I hear something and all this. So it's just coming up with ways of, doing your research, talking to other people about who are in the industry that are neurodiverse and how they cope with the kind of pressures and the business and the work and everything like that, and just kind of really just deciding, like, what it is that if you really want to do it, like, because that is an important thing as well, and what kind of direction you want to go in, and just the subject matter. If you are passionate and want to write about people like ourselves and everything like that, then you will kind of have that thing where it's like, you'll get some people that are like, I can't connect with the character because they're different from what they are. And it's just knowing that that's going to happen. you're going to get people that love the characters and the stories that you're going to tell. You're going to get lots of people that are very supportive of it, but you will get some people that are just like, why are they behaving this way? I can't connect with them. They're too different, and so on. And it's it's hurtful because you're not only putting your own work out there, but you're putting a part of yourself out there as well. But it is all a part and parcel of the experience, unfortunately.
Excellent, thank you, Lily.
One of the things that I want to particularly touch on, David did a great job bringing up rejection, because one of the comorbidities with being neurodivergent is rejection-sensitive dysphoria. So I'm glad he brought that up, because I would have mentioned that too, but I would rather stick to more of the creative side. If you're a new writer and you want to write, the first thing you need to do is not be afraid of writing. I know it sounds silly to say, oh, are you afraid of writing if you're a writer? When neurodivergent people want to represent ourselves on the page, that rejection-sensitive dysphoria goes through us preemptively, where it's like, are people not going to accept us? Are people not going to love our characters because they're an extension of us? And I just want to say, when you are writing your first draft, don't think about that. Think about you as a reader, because most writers are readers too. Some aren't. I've met quite a few, but most of us are. Think about that representation you didn't have, that you want, and put that on the page. That's what I finally did, speaking of page, unintentional pun, with the page Papillon Paranormal Mysteries. I wanted that character who was... I wrote Angelica Cross in the Paranormal Detective series because she's who I wanted to be. This extremely tough, loud, outspoken leader. And I'm just not that. So when I was writing Paige, it's like, I want a character who is like me. She might look a little different, look a little tough or outrageous, but she's quiet and empathetic and analytical. And she doesn't want to get into fights. She doesn't want to lead anything. She just wants to have her little detective business and kind of be left alone, which of course doesn't happen because the paranormal world comes in. But I wanted to write that character. I wanted to write the girl who doesn't have the exact same feelings romantically as other people. Paige is also asexual. I am not, but I understand how you don't have a connection with a lot of people. So I'm able to put that into her. I'm able to put my hyper empathy into her. The social situations that she has absolutely no idea how to deal with. It makes the character more full and more realistic. And I didn't write that book, to be to market, but I wrote it so other people, especially if you're assigned female at birth, because we get treated so differently when we're autistic. I wanted people to have a character to be like, she's me, but she's grown up and she's successful and she's happy, because unhappiness is something that's very prevalent throughout the autistic community. Again, and MM said it, we have a lot of comorbidities like depression and anxiety. And I just wanted to show autistic joy. And the second thing that I want new authors to think about, what are your hyperfixations? If you're a neurodivergent author, a neurodivergent person, you likely have hyperfixations that don't just involve writing. Put those into your books. My longest hyperfixation is vampires, which is the paranormal. And those go into most of my books. Into my non-paranormal books, I put, other things, like one of my characters is a tattoo artist. One of my hyperfixations is tattoos. I have a K-pop star. That's another one of my hyperfixations is K-pop. So just whatever you love, put that into your books, even if it's a very, very minor plot point or subplot, because that passion is actually going to make your book even better. So don't be afraid to I don't care if your passion's frogs. I don't care. Whatever it is, put it into your books. And readers are going to connect with it because you connect with it.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Em?
Yeah, touching back on what David said about rejection and what she said about rejection sensitivity, you got to keep in mind that nobody can write a book that everybody is going to like. So, yeah, you're going to get some of that negative feedback, and you have to figure out where to put it. For me, some of it is, occasionally you will get feedback that can be constructive. And, you decide what you want to do with that. The rest of the time you have to figure out whether or not you're going to put it at the feet of, like, okay, this book just wasn't for this person. I tend to rationalize my way through things. It helps me a lot. And also, when you're writing, you need to figure out kind of what's holding you back. One of the things I've learned through my journey, being late diagnosed and raising children who are all on the spectrum somewhere, with ADHD and autism, is figuring out where the specific problem is coming in. Like, are we having meltdowns because there's too much light, there's too much sound? You can take that, analyzing the situation, like, into smaller situations too. Like, why am I struggling to write this book? Is it because I can't make up names? Like, I suck at making up names, but there are so many places to get ideas for names online these days that we didn't have, like, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. So you can get ideas on how to do that. There are tools available, and basically is like whatever's making it hard for you, find the tool, find the workaround. There's so many accessibility tools out there these days. Read Aloud's been a huge help for me. Like, the difference between the writing of my first book to my second book was a big jump just because of that, because of processing differences. So be open to looking for those things, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the outside here in a ways because I've not actually been officially diagnosed as being on the spectrum or being ADHD neurodivergent. It's just kind of, as one of my friends likes to put it, not lab tested but peer reviewed. Um, so basically, I've been quote unquote diagnosed by other neurodivergents as, yeah, you are this thing, just accept it. But for new writers, I think you've also got to look at neurodivergence as a terminology, as a term, is very new in itself. Um, it's like, you know, 50, 60, 80 years ago, we didn't have bipolar disorder. There was, there was, you know, manic depression. There's, the terms are always changing. The terms are evolving. And so some people are like, well, autism is really new. No, it's not. They've been autistic for hundreds of years, but we didn't have the word. So don't let your terminology or lack thereof define you. Be who you are. Learn what helps you as a writer. Um, whether it's something, learn the best uh, adaptations that you can do, like the read aloud that M uses. Learn to utilize the tools that are available for you, um, and find which ones help you and which ones don't. Because not something that helps one person is going to help everybody else who's ND. It all is so very individual. You've got to kind of work within your own neurospace and find out what is going to help you to write what you want to write and what is going to hinder you. And you got to kind of build your own system, because it is all so individualistic. Um, so I think that's a big part of it is just finding what works for you, and going with that, and trusting your gut on how to write as a neurodivergent or neurotypical even.
Thank you so much. I want to thank our panel definitely for being here today and for sharing, their bits of their journey with us. I know it's not always easy to talk about these things, and I definitely appreciate it, and I know Joe appreciates it too. So let's go ahead to our Go Indie Minute, which probably will take more than a minute. I apologize. But so coming up this week on the Go Indie Network, we have 21 Grams. Joe with actor, author, Miss Tanya Todd. Thank you so much, Tanya, for being with us. On Wednesday, because that's Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Excuse me, Wednesday we have Words That Kill. We're in our final season. A.F. Stewart is in the chat. We'll be hosting episode 10, The Faked Death, with Alex Nader. Thank you so much, Alex. And AF, of course. This Friday, coming up, we have with Joe and Vanessa Junta. I guess I could say thank you to Joe and Vanessa, but they work here, so, it's their job. Our late night news this Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern. And I apologize. Words That Kill is going to be... I don't know the time for Words That Kill. Maybe I got it. It'll be in the evening Eastern time. And then Saturday we have Spotlight 2025. This week is Above the Rim Collection Publishing with Juliet Rose. So thank you, Juliet, for being a guest. All right. So is everybody ready for our new epilogue game? Okay, so the way we're going to work, audience and panel members, I haven't really told them either. I'm going to have a series of questions, and everyone who gets it right will move on to the next question. Anyone who gets it wrong will not literally be dropped out, but will not be in the running. And the winner gets to the fabulous honor of saying it's always time to go indie now when we cue out. So. Our panelists, are you ready for your questions?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So the first question is, book that does not have an actual dragon in it. And so let me read the options. The Hobbit, The Dragon Reborn, Dragon Riders of Pern, Her Majesty's Dragon. AJ? Oh, AJ, which one do you think it is? Okay. M?
What was the first option again?
The Hobbit.
Okay, no, it was the second one.
One. Lily?
The second one, yep.
David, I know you know this one. All right, good job, everyone. All right. Okay, all right. So here's one. Everybody moves to the next question. Hooray. A book that does not have someone who served in World War I. A character, not a real person. All Quiet on the Western Front, The Great Gatsby, Time Enough for Love, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. David, you go first.
Ooh. I've not read some of these ones, so Wizard of Oz.
Okay. Lily?
I've only read 2 of those. I'm just going to say Time Enough for Love.
Okay. M?
Yeah, I was going to go with Time Enough for Love. I haven't read most of those, so.
Okay. AJ?
I'll split the page, I guess, with this, and I'll go with Wizard of Oz as well. I have no idea.
The answer is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Yes, Time Enough for Love. The main character does end up serving in World War I briefly. So, all right. So AJ and David, it's down to the two of you. Book that does not take place in the 21st century. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? The Martian, The Peripheral, All the Birds in the Sky. AJ?
Wow. I'm gonna guess The Martian.
Okay. David?
So I know I know all do androids dream of electric sheep. The Blade Runner movies are set in the 21st century, but it's the book.
Yeah, it's the book, not the movie. Yeah, I'd definitely go with the book, not the movies.
Yeah, I was trying to think if it's different from that. I'm going to go with that one. Yeah, I'm going to go with that one.
You are correct. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep originally takes place in 1992. So, all right. So before David gets us out of here with a always time to go indie now, let's go ahead and start with him. David, tell folks where they can find you on the web, please.
You can find me at my website here, davidgreenwriter.com. All my socials are on there as well. And also yesterday, I had this book out, which was my Empire of Ruin fantasy series, epic fantasy of all neurodivergent and queer characters. It was out before. The first book has been completely rewritten and expanded, and the whole series has been re-released with lovely new covers, and you can find them here.
David, are the rest of the books in the series going to be also be rewritten, or just the first one?
So the first one was completely rewritten. The second one I have tweaked and messed around with, and the third and fourth ones are not changing, but the covers have all changed. So,
gotcha. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. Lily, where can people find you?
Thank you guys again for having me. You can all find me as Lily Lucchesi on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Partners in Crime Book Services on Substack and on TikTok. Well, we still have it. We don't know what's going to happen. You can find all of my books as Lily Lucchesi on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. I have just released 2 anthologies as S.L. Sinclair. One is The Monster I Love from Fractured Mind Publishing, and the other one is Evil Hearts, which benefits the Dollywood Foundation. And I would love it if people would check those out. Those are dark romance, just a warning. But I would also greatly appreciate anyone who would be reading the Page Papillon Paranormal Mysteries. I haven't been able to complete the series yet. There's 2 books to go. The 3 that are available, those are very close to my heart. And if you're someone who is neurotypical and who knows some neurodivergent people, especially with autism, I would hope that those would help you to understand us and know that, we do have very different thought processes, but we're people. We're just people. So please read, enjoy, and yeah, that's all.
Thank you so much. Em?
Yeah, you can find me all over the place. I'm on Blue Sky, MM Rees, that's pretty much my screen name everywhere. On TikTok for now. And then Facebook, Instagram, Tome. I'm on Tome now. That's a new fantasy book social media platform. That's the word I was looking for. See, I'm there too. My books are on, my paperbacks are on bookshop.org. You can get my paperback and ebooks on Amazon. And that's all the places you can find me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And AJ?
You can find me at ajmulligan.com/author. Has all my social links there. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky sometimes, Threads, Tome. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm there. TikTok, I've kind of stepped back from because we don't know what's going on with it and because I didn't like the platform to begin with. But yeah, there's where you can find me.
Thank you so much. And thank you for powering through with your cold. And David, thank you for getting here with power issues. We appreciate it. Appreciate all 4 of you being here. I'm SM Hillman. You can find me here at Go Indie. You can find me at Multiverse and JordanCon. You can find me at thewickedboys.com. Thanks, everyone. David, take us out.
It's always time to go indie now.